Hello everyone, today I'm doing my review, recommendation, and rating for Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. This is a story that takes place in a world that has a very rigid caste structure, and our main character Tao, he's a young man who happens to be in one of the lower castes, and as such, he's smaller, he's not as strong, he's not as fast, he doesn't enjoy a lot of the same privileges, he's not as good with a sword, but some stuff happens and he has to take revenge on people in the upper caste. So that's basically the setup for this book. It's a revenge story, but I promise you it spirals into something much bigger. It was definitely something I was kind of about at first because revenge stories are done a lot and they can be pretty basic and not very, original and they can be extremely predictable. But I promise you this book does not suffer from that at all. So, the way this video will be structured is I'll talk about things that I like but don't love. Then I'll get into any negatives I have about the story. And I'll finish off with things I love to end on a happy note. And after that, I'll give my rating on a scale from 1 to 10. And then my recommendation, like who should read this, who maybe wouldn't like this, that sort of thing. So, some things I like. I like the companions, like the side characters, the friends, or sword brothers as they're called in this book. They're not the most in-depth friends or side characters. We only really get Tao's POV in the story, except for a few little parts here and there. But still, his companions that are by his side are still interesting and fun. And since this is such a strong military-based fantasy, we get a lot of development through battle scenes. So you can tell someone's personality almost by like how they act in battle. So there's one who's strategic, there's one who's just a big brute guy, and it was cool seeing their companionship grow, even if these characters weren't the most fleshed out. You don't really know their backgrounds that much, but the transition they go to from kind of, not really liking each other to being as close as they become was very satisfying to read. Another thing I like is the magic. I'm not someone who needs a lot of magic in my fantasy or who needs like a hard magic system. Not one of those, like Brandon Sanderson fans tend to like that kind of stuff, which is still cool. I still enjoy it, but it's not a necessity for me. And the magic here was like good, there are rules, there's give and take with the magic, and it's explained, a little bit, and there's some cool concepts here and there that I've not seen before, but it's not as big of a feature of the book as other fantasy books have their magic be. The focus here in battle is definitely on sword play and stuff of that nature, but the magic was still fun when it was there. Alright, so I only have one negative for this story, and it's more of a nitpicky type thing, so it might not bother other people, and it just only slightly bothered me really at the beginning of the story, and that is sometimes it's hard to envision the setting where these events are taking place, and I think it's because the prose is so fast and so direct, which is something I tend to like. It's just very to the point, but I think it had to sacrifice a little bit of detail regarding descriptions and stuff in order to do that. So at first it was a little bit hard for me to kind of immerse myself in this world, It's not like you can open a book and immediately first page, bang, you're in this world. Maybe for some people you are, but for me I have to kind of build up to it, get used to this world, and at first it was kind of hard to be that immersed, but I definitely did eventually get there because, other parts of this are so well done. So now the fun part, I get to talk about all the things I love and gush about this book. So I love the world here. It's so different than any other fantasy world I've read. It's not just like a copy paste of a reimagined Europe or something. This is African inspired. So it's completely original, at least to me. I've never read anything else like it. There might be other books out there with a similar type thing, but I'm not aware of them. So we get a lot of new concepts introduced, new cultures, new mythology, even like the landscapes and stuff like that are different than a traditional fantasy setting. So the world really in itself became a character, even in spite of my last nitpicky comment about the setting. The world was still interesting enough, and the caste system and the way the military works and everything of that nature was so fresh and new that it became a character of itself to me. Another thing I love is a lot of the themes that are explored in the story. It surprised me. A revenge story tends to kind of be one note sometimes. It's one of the reasons why I think they're so boring or repetitive or whatever it may be and predictable. But this book actually has questions raised that I was thinking about even after finishing the book. So the a lot of questions are raised about imperialism, colonialism, that type of stuff. Like taking someone else's land, as well as discrimination and prejudice. Tao being in a lower caste that literally physically is not as strong, fast, or talented as people in upper classes, so they have to work harder, and it just explores things of that nature. Um, I also love Tao. Uh, Tao's the best part of the book. He's an amazing protagonist. He undergoes a change, such a large transformation, probably the biggest I've read, honestly, for a protagonist in one book, but it's believable. Um, it's so believable, and it's so dark. It's really, really dark, and you know, it's hard to even compare Tao at the end to Tao at the beginning. But the journey you go on with him is weirdly fun despite all of the awful things. Um, it's super fast paced. It manages to be that fast paced while having a bunch of things happen that feel believable. And I just have to commend Evan Winter for that because that's extremely hard to do. When someone writes something so fast paced, I feel like a lot can get lost, especially in terms of developing character, but that's not the case here. Um, yeah. My rating for this book, it's going to be a high one. This is my first book review on this channel, and I wanted to start out with something pretty positive. So this is a 9.5 out of 10 for me. My recommendation, people who would like this book are people who like military fantasy, who like a lot of violence in their fantasy, who like darker themes and darker tones. Um, People who might not like this are people who need like the magic at the forefront of their fantasy. But still, I would say give it a go. You might like it. The magic is still here and it's still cool, but it's definitely not, the center of attention. Um, and if you're sensitive to violence and don't want to read something negative, I guess maybe steer clear of this. But I think anyone could give this a go and find enjoyment in it. And that's all I have today. Thank you.